Hello everyone and welcome to another SuncatByte. During today's SuncatByte, we're going to be talking about structs. And let me zoom in here, make the font bigger. Here we go. Okay, so structs in C++ are used a record. For instance, suppose you want to keep track of books, perhaps something like cars, people, etc. So a struct lets you keep track of a record. Basically what it does is it allows you to create a group of variables that represent records. Okay, and in order to do that, you have to define a structure. So you have to use the struct statement for that. So to define, it's going to look something like this. You're going to have the struct keyword or struct statement. They're going to have a tag, which is basically going to be the name of the structure. Then you're going to have all these things that we call members, which are basically variables that make the struct up, or yep, to make up the struct or make the struct up. So all these different member definitions, so we'll call it member definition 1, 2, ... to member definition n. So however, called big N. However many members you have are variables in the struct. And then here you can have one or more structure variables. And what that basically means is you can actually declare instances of the struct here when you define the struct. I don't typically do this. I usually declare them separate. I usually just do this piece here, which actually defines the struct, and I don't actually do the structure variable declaration there, but you can. So a structure tag is going to basically be, it's going to be required, and that's going to be the name that you have for the struct. And then at the end of the definition, those are actual variables that are created for the struct. So if you want to access one of those variables, actually let's just look at an example first. Look at something like this. If you have a book, and we'll look at an example of this actually being implemented, but you could have a book here. So this is the structure tag, it's a book, that's the type of the struct, and then a book contains all of these things. A title, here it's a character array in this case, length 50, author, length 50 of a character array, subject, length 100, and a book ID. And then here's an actual variable named book. So this is a precursor to object-oriented programming when we talk about classes. Now, say we want to access one of these members, then we would use what is called the dot operator. So to access members of a struct, use the dot or member access operator. Okay, so let's look at an example here to kind of illustrate this. Looking at an example, we have a book again. Here's the struct definition, struct books, see, char title, author, subject, int book ID. So these are all the different members, the things that can make up this struct. Notice we didn't actually declare any variables here. We then went in, so before we can use this, it has to be seen in the code. In our multi-file programs, this will be in the .h file, typically. So here, we have two declarations of struct variables. So we have struct books, because it's a book, struct books type, and book 1 and book 2. So here's two different books. So book 1, you have this thing called book 1, and it has all of these different variables associated with it. It has a title, an author, a subject, and a book ID. First three are char arrays, the other one's an int. To actually set those, we can use the strcpy function. We can say book1.title, learn C++ programming. we're using these stir copy functions because they're C strings, right? Then we can say, so that's going to copy this learn C++ programming into book1.title. So notice we use the dot operator to access the title of book 1. For the author of book 1, we use the dot operator again. So it's saying this is the author of book 1. It's going to be Chan Mian, subject of book 1, C++ programming, and then book1.bookid equal 649507. So that's setting the book ID. Then we do the same thing here to set the data for book 2. Now it's just a matter of printing everything. So to print it out, you have book1.title, colon, so this is just like a header basically, right? And then we give you the actual title of book 1 here, which would be Learn C++ Programming, then the author, Chan Mian, and so on and so forth. So if I go ahead, I've already built this. If I start it and run it, then you can see, well, I have things not in the correct path here, so that's why I get that error message at the top. But starting here where it says book 1 title, you have Learn C++ Programming, book 1 author, Chan Mian, book 1 subject, C++ programming, so on and so forth. So say I came along and said, I want to add a string to this as well. So I can put a string there and say string, let's say genre, for instance, right? And I should have to include include string. So now I want there to be a string for genre for these books. So here I can say book1.genre equals programming. So that's going to be, the genre for this one would be programming. And we need a semicolon there. And here, say if I say book2.genre equals, it's a string, so we'll say IT, because it's a telecom book. Now, you can simply do cout statements again. Book1 genre, and say book1.genre, inline to follow the format we've done, and cout book2 genre, book2.genre. So you can see it's that easy to go ahead and edit your structs as well. So if I now build the solution again and run it, there you go. We have our genre on here as well. Programming for that one, IT for this one. I did miss a space there if you notice for the programming one. So right there, I missed that space. So if we get that, we recompile, run it again. Now you get that space there in genre. So that's it. That's structs in a nutshell. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know in the discussion board forum or shoot me an email. Talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.